All right, guys, today we're diving into all things community. Women don't even go to the bathroom on their own. Why are we going to go into the outdoors on our own? Let's talk about learning, growing, and educating one another. You guys aren't going to want to miss this episode. Let's talk community.
Welcome to the Ascend Podcast, a podcast by and for women in the outdoors. Every episode delivers real stories, practical how-tos, and a welcoming community to help you start, sharpen, or rediscover your passion for the outdoors. Authentic women, real stories, outdoor adventures, Ascend. Presented by Ducks Unlimited, the leader in wetlands conservation. Your next adventure starts here, the Ascend Podcast.
I'm your host today, Bethany Beathard, and we are talking about a topic that is close to my heart and probably a lot of women. Community is something so special. And so I have a really good guest today that's going to talk all about community that's actually kind of a foundational member of the women community in the outdoors, someone that a lot of people know. And so, Jess Rice, will you please introduce yourself, how you founded WildHERness, and yeah, how you got started in the outdoors?
Thank you for having me, Bethany, and those are awfully kind words to be saying, so I appreciate those as well. Wilderness is just an artifact of never really having a community myself. I never felt that I truly belonged anywhere, you know? It always felt that you needed to be just a little less and shrink down just a little bit, and out of that, plus my experiences at so many different other women's events and women's organizations, within National Wild Turkey Federation, there's the Women in the Outdoors initiative. Um, Everyone's got kind of their little niche that is the token women's or part of their organization. So through those experiences combined with the fact that I never felt wholly myself, that's where wilderness was developed. And I really didn't realize that it was out of a need for myself until I saw so many other women finding community through wilderness. It made me reflect a little, and realize that it was something in me that was missing, that I created this where other women can feel, safe, supported, and loved while they're going through what can be very transformational, becoming involved in the outdoors.
Yeah, so let's talk about that for a moment. Just building a movement of community in the outdoors. I feel like, like you said, there's all these segmented groups, but they're all kind of flourishing because women want that community. And that was something for me. I actually got involved with the same type of group in Oklahoma. And I, out of that, burst some of my best friendships. I talk to these women every day. We're going on beyond hunting. We're going on trips together. We're meeting up for late lunch, sending reels back and forth. That community where, we can't just go to our local chapter meeting, our local, wildlife department get together and find where the majority is women. So out of that, we're birthing all these organizations, and wilderness is really taking it beyond an online platform. You guys actually have meetups in person. Talk a little bit about how that first started to where you guys are now, the meetings that you guys are creating.
Yeah, so we started with just the basic idea that we wanted a place for women to come so that they could learn skills. And we saw those the learning of those skills translate into this incredible confidence. These women would leave our events and they'd be walking taller and their heads, held a little higher. And that is where we realized that we were empowering women. We weren't just finding a place for them to come together and do something. We were changing lives because we were teaching them that they were part of something that they had always been excluded from for one reason or another. So wilderness came as an artifact of wanting to break down some of those barriers, wanting to make the outdoors and everything associated with nature accessible for everyone. So we have kind of a tagline at WildHErness. It's authentic, accessible adventure. And that authentic really comes from the fact that we expect people to show up in their authentic form. Whatever that is that day, you're going to be loved and you're going to be accepted and you're going to learn something with people who are totally different from you, but really have a passion for one thing, and that's the outdoors. Accessible just means that we want costs to not be a factor. There are, like we've talked a million times, Bethany, just on our own about the multitude of barriers that there are for women in terms of getting involved in the outdoors. Cost is one we have a little bit of control over. So that is where the accessibility comes in. Uh, Additionally, we really like to do outreach for disabled veterans and handy capable people. So accessible also translates into that. And then adventure. That just looks like whatever it may be for you. We have women who come who are hunters already, and then we have women who have never picked up a gun. And we
Yeah.
have women who just want to learn how to take care of themselves and their families using, basic ingredients. We have people who want to learn how to homestead. So providing adventure is really kind of the third essence of that tagline.
Yeah. I love that because, we talk about the number one way to get in the outdoors is mentorship. And if we go back to, I grew up where deer camp was kind of like the boys thing. Like I was never involved with that, but that out of that spawns like, hey, we're at deer camp, but we have a fishing trip coming up, next month. You should come. Women a lot of times didn't get that. And so w- this group that you've created is really giving women the interest, like, oh, well, I love the, mentor hunt that they had, but now they're having like a canning seminar, like I love that because it's kind of giving them the ability to do something else in the outdoors or, like you said, gain another skill. That frankly we've lost a lot of these hands-on skills. Like we've lost, like I've taught myself how to can, like we've talked about this, but like I've taught myself how to can, pressure canning, water bath canning, and it's scary. So, like you said, if you've never picked up a gun before, that could be scary to somebody. You talked to me like before about a recent event you guys just did, your first event in Maine. I want to hear about how it happened. Like, what does that look like? Uh, Tell me about it.
So that casting adventure was coastal Maine kayaking. We went to a place that is known for bioluminescent plankton, just little guys that glow at night. So we had a night paddle underneath the Milky Way. It was the clearest night. We had 12 women show up. It was an incredible group of humans just all together. I have goosebumps talking about this right now. All came together from as far as Wyoming. Some of them knew people, some of them came in pairs, and some of them came solo. But the group itself just meshed so easily. And we went out and we were glowing above the boat and we were glowing below the boat. It was magnificent. Our downtime was spent in this incredible historic inn there in Castine, and we went on a walking tour. We were able to see all sorts of maritime history there in this little coastal town where the streets end in the ocean. It was like a postcard. Um, we have plans for next year. We're making it an annual thing. It was spectacular.
Man, I'm definitely need to put that on the bucket list because that sounds so fun. But
Yes.
something you said sparked a thought in me. You said not everybody knew each other. And so go back to COVID. You bought a hog hunt. You couldn't go because you were going with somebody that got COVID, and I
Uh-huh.
bought your slot. I show up to this hunt. I had no anything about it. Like you were just like posted like, "Hey guys, selling my spot." I had no idea the women that were going. I had no idea. Like all I knew was we're going on this hog hunt in Texas and it wasn't too far from where I lived. And I just did it. And out of that
Jumped
came
in.
some of the coolest relationships. Matter of fact, I had talked to a lady there that used to be a freelance writer. And I was like, yeah, I kind of want to get into that. And that's literally what I do now is outdoor freelance writing. And she like helped me do that. And my roommate was a 65-year-old lady that showed all of us up, killed the first hog, had better gear than all of us. It was amazing, and so I
Oh,
love that. So, yeah, little backstory, like, how we had followed each other for a while online, but yeah,
yeah.
I bought your hog
And,
hunt, and I met some really good friends.
one of the gals on that hunt is our treasurer now, Jenny Anderson.
Yes, she was there.
Yeah.
Man, it
Yeah.
was a crazy hunt, but I'm so glad that I went. Like, I met just some amazing people, and so, yeah, I love that, and I think, and that wasn't even a WildHERness thing. That was just
Mm-mm.
a community. Women said, "Hey, let's get together and do a hunt,"
Yep.
and I think we are finding a lot of that in the outdoors. Like, we're seeing a lot of women just, "I want to be around other women doing these things."
Yes.
What does it look like whenever you guys put an event out? Like, is it just like, you filling up fast? What is the interest? How you guys gauging that?
It depends on what it is and the time of the year. Things are slow right now, just the economy kind of sucks and people aren't really spending their free money. Um, but we, like I mentioned, try to combat that by offering things on a free to low cost basis. And um, right now, we are looking at our annual Go Wild event, which stands for Go Outdoors, where you lead discovery. That is our second annual one in Oklahoma. We've done it for 5 years in a row in Missouri. So we've got it going in 2 states, but it's a weekend long retreat that has sold out in the past. And this year, we're about at half capacity. So, you know, things like that sometimes go well and sometimes don't. But the things that always do really well are when we offer a learn to experience. We offer many learn to hunt, learn to fish camps where women can come together for an entire weekend. They have kind of a cohort and they go through an experience that is very raw and very real. And truly, it's primal. Tapping into some of these skills where you're learning how to feed yourself, to provide food for yourself, and then, taking the next steps to process it and then actually eating it. That's a really intimate and transformative experience, particularly for women. Um, we've kind of talked on this subject before, but as a woman, after creating life, it can be very difficult to take a life. So those experiences really bond women together. So we find that women who attend in those deer camps, for instance, within that cohort, are just very bonded together. We'll see them take off together on hunting trips out in the woods, or they beat up to go bow fishing or frog gigging. And maybe it has nothing to do with deer hunting. But going through those experiences together really bonds them to one another. And that's what it's about for us is it's not just teaching women these skills, but it's offering the opportunity for them to embrace a lifestyle change with people who also love the outdoors.
Yeah, I can be a testament to that as well. You do get bonded with these women, and you find often that you feed off each other's strengths, and the outdoors is something that will test you. And I have suffered, like, for real, -3 duck hunts, solo elk hunting in Oklahoma. Like, it's rough. And my outdoor women besties are the ones that have encouraged me, and there was times where I'm like, "Man, walking into the woods is scary on public land by yourself," but then I'm like, "Well, my best friend Sierra does it over in the Osage, I can do it over here," and so you, like, really having, like, that back and forth, those encouragement. How do you find that for yourself as kinda like the leader? Do you have your own, like, group of besties that you can, like, call on to encourage?
Absolutely. Everybody in a leadership position within WildHErness, I feel like I could call in a heartbeat, and they would commiserate, they would uplift whatever I needed. We have a really great team of women between our executive committee, our board of directors, and all of the women that are doing coordination of events. So I'm really proud to call most of those women good friends.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I know that you spend time in the outdoors a lot. How are you pulling yourself away? Is like, I feel like once you get established in a community, and it's been for me, you start climbing the ranks of like, okay, well, now I know this. I want to pull somebody in and you start that mentorship. How are you finding time for yourself? And you're also a mom. So I know your outdoor time is probably also split between bringing littles too,
Yep.
and I feel like that's a part of like mental health, just like kind of doing your own thing. Do you find time for that? And like, what's your encouragement to a mom that finds herself in that space?
I have I do find some time, but I've also found that my enjoyment of the outdoors really is exponentially more pleasurable through the eyes of someone else. It's I've done some things and I've been on hunts and I've been on hikes and I've challenged myself, and to be with someone when they're getting to do that for the first time, whether they're 4 or they're 44, it's it, it's fulfilling in a way that it's very difficult to describe. And that's how we get paid at WildHErness is seeing those changes in women when they thought they couldn't do something, and a group of other women around them assured them they could do it if they just tried. So that's my advice to any mom. Take your kids, get out there, uh, lag behind. Take those few seconds of solitude while your kids are running up the trail. Enjoy it. Make a scavenger hunt. Get them out from underneath your feet and make it fun for them. Enjoy a little bit of silence in the woods for yourself, um, because the childhood is fleeting, you know. So you've got to make it as fun as you can. And um, in kind of reference to what you were saying, you know, you just got to do it scared sometimes, even if it's
Yeah.
like finding a new community when you've moved halfway across the country, or, you know, walking
Yes.
into the woods and is in the morning and it's dark. You just sometimes have to do it scared. So that's my advice.
Yeah. One of the things that really resonates with me about wilderness is the emphasis on mental health and, how the outdoors can be empowering, how it can be healing. And what we as women are just more just emotional. How are you seeing like the women like in the group just, come back after a weekend, on like that high? I'm sure you feed off of that yourself,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What are your guys's how do you encourage, how do you keep that spark going? What's the after the hunt, after the event? What is that like?
You know, it's mostly in an online community. We have just a Facebook group where anybody who's attended an event at any point in time is more than welcome to join up. That's where a lot of those meetups happen. And, you know, they are not affiliated with WildHErness whatsoever. We had a big group of gals this summer meet up and go float on the Buffalo River in Arkansas. They camped and had nothing to do with WildHErness except for that they all met at WildHErness events. So, um, it we are very emotional, and I think that, that's what makes these experiences hit so hard, and the friendships develop so quickly and so deeply. Um, it is pretty special, though, to watch the change in a woman who comes in on a Friday and leaves on a Sunday to a WildHErness event. Uh, it's really special.
Yeah, I think we just need that recharge. We
Yes.
need that. And I think just humans in general, like I think we're craving it in this today's society with just we're on screens all the time, we're indoors all the time. You know, I know for me, if I'm hunting a weekend, by the end of it, like I can just hear more. You're
Yes.
breathing fresher. I don't know, like everything is just your senses are just more heightened. Like I don't know,
Everything's
it feels
crispy.
exhilarating. Yes, yes, like, you're just like,
Yeah.
"Man," um, I love that, I think just as a mom, I'm indoors, I tune my kids out, but in the tree stand with them, I'm hearing every crinkle of the bag of chips or whatever that they're yeah, they're digging into. And I love it, though. I think, some of those, like you said, experiencing it through somebody else, that's my kids have given me that, and seeing them me and my son, this is last year, he wanted to go hunting with me, and I was like, "Okay," and it was bow hunting, and so we're out there, and we see no deer, and we're just, like, waiting and waiting, and then here comes these 2 massive bull elk. Of course, we can't, harvest them because it's not elk season on post. But they start like tussling, and then two mom cows came out with their calves, and they're literally, you know, I mean, I had the video of it, maybe 15, 20 yards from us. Wind was perfect. He's shaking like a leaf. And I'm like, okay, this is how you put your, like, be slow, put your binoculars down, like lift them up. It was amazing experience. No harvest came from that. But to be able to see my son witness that for the first time, that's one of my best like outdoor memories.
Oh,
Can you share with us a story of just one of those warming, like, with your kids, with other women, those first times of experiencing, like, people you unless you've experienced it, like, that feeling, like, "Oh, man," like, that was their first time ever seeing that in the outdoors.
yeah. I actually was mentoring one time. It was the daughter of a mother-daughter pair, but the mom was there. So a deer came out and it stomped at us and shook its head, and blew at us a little bit as we're sitting in the blind, and decided we were nothing to be scared of and quartered away. So she took the shot and brought down her first deer. Um, and not only did I get to see her reaction to that, but her mom's reaction to her daughter's first year, and it was just, like, kind of doubly special, getting to see, the reaction to the reaction to the reaction, and being there as part of that is always really incredible, being part of somebody's first harvest, uh, it's kind of a sacred thing, you know?
Yeah.
You have to really sometimes you have to walk women through it. It can be difficult, and, um, being respectful of everyone's, um, different ways of handling
Yeah.
hunting, can get tricky, but, um, that was one time that I really that will always stand out to me. Uh,
Yeah, that's awesome. How you said walking through everybody's different ways, you know I don't even know how you would prepare for that, being around people, like, there's just no preparing, you just kinda roll with the punches of, because it doesn't bring a lot of I grew up with it, like, I grew up around hunting was a thing, but then I meet people and they've never even thought of it, and I'm like, "Yeah, you should come hunt," and then they're like, "Well, there's these list of fears," or, apprehensive. Um, I think with the movement of obviously COVID kinda sparked a movement of, like, grow your own, harvest your own. I think we're kinda seeing kind of a dial back of some of those fears, like, okay, well, like, I'm more afraid of not eating, you know? I'm more afraid of not providing for my family. Have you guys seen the transition in, there really has been a rise on the women's side of getting the outdoors and really getting the family involved in the outdoors because of that. You
yeah,
know, how do you feel about kind of that self movement, that self-sufficient movement that's going on? You moved from Kansas, now you're in Maine,
yeah.
or you were, I mean, Missouri. So, totally different spectrums. How are you are you still seeing the same response where you are in Maine for that?
Truthfully, here in Maine, it seems like women in general, um first of all, we're the only state here in Maine in the United States where women and men are buying equal number of hunting licenses. So
Awesome.
that itself is diabolical, right? But in general, women here have embraced hunting and it's just part of who they are. I haven't really encountered anybody that I need to teach something. I've not seen a need like there was back home for a genuine community. These women here just seem to have figured it out. They love to do things together. I don't mean that there's not a need for community in general. I mean that there's not a need for the learning part of that community. Um, the adventure certainly is there. They want to do the things together. But they feel more self-sufficient here. So,
That's
um,
so interesting.
it is.
You know,
It is.
I think it kinda goes back to, like, Missouri, similar to Oklahoma, Kansas, Texas, I feel like we grew up in a time where just deer camp was the boys thing,
Mhm.
Not very many girls actually got to go or did go. And it was later in life. And, I decided later in life I wanted to hunt, and I kind of went on this whole self journey to do that. I grew up on 55 acres. We did predator control. We did I helped with but my dad went and got the deer, came back, we helped butcher it type thing. But it's interesting to see, when I think of Maine, I think of moose, bear,
Mhm.
it's like Montana. You meet a Montana girl and like she grew up with it too, like I'm like, oh,
Right.
she's a Montana girl. Like she did
Yeah.
it. She grew up doing it. I feel like it's so crazy the cultural difference that we find. And that's kind of the beauty of wilderness though, because we all meet kinda like on this central hub of what's online, these communities,
Yes.
and then can kind of grasp somebody else's they're pulling me up, their knowledge, but it's really interesting to see. I feel like the same kinda thing here in Georgia. This is our second kinda time being in this area. My husband's in the military, and we're back here. I feel like women kinda just we had a hunting club before. The wives were always there. Their kids were always around, it's a lot there's a big dog community down here, and I feel like that automatically kind of brings a lot of people together, running dogs, the hog community, the coon hunting community. It's just a family thing, and I don't know, maybe Maine's the same way. I know people that take their dogs to Maine that do the hunting with up there, but and I don't know. Do you feel like that's kinda like the same thing? I feel like in Oklahoma, it's, like, kinda segmented maybe, this is my deer stand, this is my plot of land. Is there a lot of public land in Maine?
Not a ton of public land. And once you get up north, there is. We're down south, and kind of coastal. So, in our immediate area, there's not a ton of public hunting land. I do have a very exciting hunt planned. I got my husband for his birthday. He's a big upland hunter, has been for his whole life. So we are going grouse and woodcock hunting at the end of the month. So I'll
That's
report back
exciting.
on hunting conditions in Maine.
Yes. Do you guys have your own dogs, or are you guys going with, like, a guide service?
We're going with a guide service. We do have a dog, but she has
Okay.
not hunted since she's been through training, so she's very
Okay.
green. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know that we're gonna take her just because she's out of practice right now.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's exciting, and then, I was mentioning, you were talking about all of these different women's groups. There is one that is very, very active here in Maine called Maine Women Hunters, and I got in a lottery for a hare hunt with dogs, in November, so that'll be coming up as my second opportunity to hunt since we've moved here.
That's exciting. Like beagles?
I think so. I don't know, I've never
Yeah.
done it
I have a
before.
I have a beagle that one of my Instagram followers has a rabbit dog kennel and gifted it to us. We've had him for, like, 3 years. He's amazing. He actually escaped this week and was running rabbits in the patch of woods. We had to, like, go in there and get him, but, that actually just happened this week, so that's exciting to have to report back and let us know,
Yeah.
yeah, like, tag us in whatever, like, your
Oh, for
harvest
sure.
or non-harvest or whatever it looks like, but this is a great time to take a break and thank our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
Dry Pocket, gear that stands up to the wild. Experience waterproof hunting gear and Mossy Oak's signature camo designed for every hunt. Built to be waterproof, durable, and reliable, you can trust your gear when it matters most. Stay dry, stay ready. Our products float with a watertight seal, keeping your essentials airtight and scent-free. The top seals automatically, no manual closure needed. With Dry Pocket's Mossy Oak collection, you're ready for any adventure. Gear up at drypocket.com and use promo code ASCEND for a special offer.
Introducing the next evolution of our best-selling TX platform. A groundbreaking, duty-ready pistol that brings elite, mission-grade performance to the modern shooter. Expertly assembled in the USA. Optics ready, right out of the box. Engineered for shooters who expect more from their firearm. This is the all-new Taurus TX9. Built to perform when it matters most. Designed to back you up, no matter what.
Great flavor starts with the right fire. Oklahoma Joe's grills and smokers are built to deliver rich smoke, deep sear marks, and real barbecue flavor, whether you're cooking back at camp or in your own backyard. And because they're made with heavy-duty steel and durable construction, they're built to last season after season. Head to oklahomajoes.com and use code DUCKS10 for 10% off your purchase.
The Echelon from Springfield Armory. Designed around a robust stainless steel chassis and revolutionary optics mounting system. Engineered with superior ergonomics and built to withstand the harshest conditions. The Echelon, only from Springfield Armory.
All right, we're back, and let's talk about maybe there's women that are listening and they're feeling inspired to get involved. How do they do that? What is your advice to these women, like, trying to find a community because they might not have one? That's the reality for most of us. We have to kinda go seek that out. What do you say to women that are looking for that?
Look with their state Becoming an Outdoors Woman program. That is the longest running women's outdoor education platform here in the US. And in fact, it's international at this point. There is a Becoming an Outdoors Woman event in, I think, all 50 states and several different countries on top of that. So you could even go to Antarctica and do snow play with Becoming an Outdoors Woman, or you can go down to the Baja Peninsula of Mexico and snorkel with whale sharks as one of your afternoon activities. So, Becoming an Outdoors Woman is a wonderful resource for anybody that's looking to start that community, to find that community. That's where I got my start. Between that and the National Wild Turkey Federation Women in the Outdoors, it's the second most widespread women's platform out there. Those are my two biggest recommendations. Then looking for women-specific organizations like WildHERness, Sisterhood of the Outdoors, Artemis Sportswomen, American Daughters of Conservation. There are chapters of most of those organizations, or they host events all over the United States. So there's an opportunity for you to get involved regardless of where you are. You just have to take the step and be brave enough to come, because once the journey starts, you'll never be sorry that it did.
Yeah, I can definitely attest to that as well. I, um, signed up and I went on my first dove hunt, and fun fact, I don't even really like birds, but I hunt more birds than anything, I think. And anyways, I signed up for this hunt, and I that's where I met my 2 best friends, and we have went on so many, mostly bird hunts together, and we I see all these events, like, the Sisterhood in the Outdoors, like, they post great content, Daughters of Conservation, and on the side of conservation, that's we kinda collabed on that. We did the Raw you mentioned, we did the Rawa Act together, kinda promoting that, and I think that's something that was kinda scary to me at first. It's like, I really wanna be involved in the outdoors, but I don't know how I can be involved in conservation, and it's as simple as, like, you've done a lot of conservation work, you know? It's not all about the hunt. It's about conserving this, preserving it. Um, and some women really find themselves on that side of it. Like, you know, what have you done in the outdoors and as far as like conservation and promoting that? Because I feel like that is also an entryway for people because they might be like
Certainly.
a non-hunter. They support hunting and but they really support conservation more. And I feel like there's a big, heavy presence that we could maybe funnel women into.
Absolutely.
Um,
And
as
I
a
think,
mom, I'm kinda like yeah, go ahead.
well, that's kind of at the core of what we do at WildHErness, is giving them something to care about. You're just illustrating, look at all the beauty there is. And don't you want to preserve this for future generations? Even if you don't have kids of your own, people need to see this. They need to have this experience of walking a field and flushing a wild bird and it scaring the absolute bejesus out of you. And e everybody needs to have that experience once in their lives, and the more you expose people to something, the more they realize what there is to care about. And so, essentially, that's what we're doing at WildHErness, is creating conservationists by showing them all there is to do in the outdoors.
Yeah, I
It's
some of my
important.
favorite it is, and some of my favorite parts of hunts that I went on has been not even the hunt part. Like, I was hunting osceolas in Florida, and one of my most memorable parts about that hunt was these hoot owls in the morning started, like, hooting at each other. They're laughing, like, like, they do, like, the little laughing back and forth. It was like, I have so much, like, audio of that happening, and I was actually the guy that was calling for me was, like, a competition owl caller, so they would kinda, like, calm down, and then he would, like, do another call, and then they would just start, like, and it was just there were so many of them. I've never been I was, like, at the middle of, like, 6 or 7 barn owls, like, just going back and forth at each other. It was amazing. Of course, as soon as the sun started coming up, now we have, like, these gobbles, and that was just, like, an amazing experience to just like, I immersed myself in that fully, and I still think about that, and it really made me want to work on my owl calling because I was like, I wanna recreate that again, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but, I think for, like, as a mom, those are the experiences I wanna give my kids. And if we're not doing conservation, they're not gonna experience those things, they're not
Right.
sitting on the ground with their back against a tree and, seeing all this stuff, like, bring up the elk is one of the biggest conservation stories in Oklahoma, aside from the
Mhm.
bison.
Yeah.
Oklahoma elk were hunted to extinction, like, completely gone. The elk that are there now are actually Wyoming, you know, transplants.
Transplants, yeah.
Uh, yeah, and they went from, like, 12 to a huntable measure of 5,000 is what
That's
there is now.
amazing.
And so, I'm, like, telling my kids, we went to the museum there, and they got to see, like, a picture of, like, the original Oklahoma elk, or which are really similar to what we would say, like, a New Mexico, Colorado elk, but now the elk that are there now are a lot smaller. Like, they're just not as big as they used like, the original Oklahoma elk were. And so it was a really good talking point to talk with my kids about and share conservation, and I really bonded with other women on post, because I hunt mostly military, but, like, talking about, you know, elk hunting in Oklahoma. People don't even know that they have that.
Yeah.
And they actually have that in Missouri. People don't know that either, and
Mhm.
that's a
Mhm.
lot harder of a hunt to actually get. Did you ever put
Yes.
in for that?
I did not, but I do have a friend, and I've told her story many times before. She uh, came to a wilderness event, a vegetarian, had never picked up a gun in her life. She came and she took a shotgunning class. And she sat down with me after that class and she had tears in her eyes. And she looked at me and she said, "Nobody ever told me that I could like guns without killing anything." And it just completely changed her entire perspective of her life on guns, and she is now coordinating deer camps for us. And this year, she put in and got a bear tag. So within the last 3 years, she's gone from non-hunter to she's gonna do it solo this year in
I
Missouri.
love
So,
that. Yes, that
yeah.
that was also my kinda thing was, like, I'm just if I don't have somebody to go with, I'm going solo,
Yeah.
and I've done a lot of solo hunting, and I feel like that's a space that us women, we do find ourselves in. We don't always I mean, the statistic is that, like, 89% of women hunt with a partner or on, like, land where other people are hunting, um, but there are a lot of women, I think it's growing the amount of women, especially I feel like on the Western side, and we'll have to, like, get back. Erin is one of our,
Yeah.
other hosts, and she's awesome, but I feel like women going out West is, like, getting like, that's kinda growing. Like, I don't know, I see a lot of people online, and I feel like that's an encouragement. Well, if she can do it, I can do it. And
Absolutely.
I don't think we
Yes.
we ever had that before,
No.
that there was not an example. We weren't I mean what, in the last maybe 15 years, we had, like, a women's section in the hunting catalog,
Yeah.
like
Yeah. And
or
the
even,
women
like,
you would
women's hunting
see.
gear?
Yeah, and the women you would
Yeah.
see, they weren't hunting, they were, hypersexualized and
Yes.
models.
Yeah.
They weren't actually out
Yeah.
doing the dang thing, and I think that that's another real important duty of us as women in the outdoors is posting our adventures because I can't tell you how many times women have come up and they're like, "I saw you did this, and it encouraged me to do this," and I really think that that is a responsibility that we shouldn't take lightly. Um, and we were just chatting a little bit earlier about conservation. One time habitat conservation. It's just so important, right? If there's no habitat, there's no animals to hunt, there's no birds to bird watch, there's, nothing. There's no flowers to press. So we partnered with our local Pheasants Forever chapter and went out and hand seeded a half acre at some public land. I took my 2.5-year-old daughter and put a seed cup in her hand and was like, sprinkle, baby, sprinkle, So I think it's never too soon to start talking about conservation. Whether it's like, getting to hear an elk bugle or, physically going out and spreading seeds. I think we owe that to our kids, like you said.
Yeah, one of my biggest actually, I have a picture of my son. He was probably, maybe 5 or 6, and we used to be a part of this homeschool group. It was a nature group, and we met, like, once a week, and we would do a nature outing, and we went to, like, a marshland. It was when we lived in Florida, and I have a picture at the end of the hike. He had picked up trash the entire time, and he has, like, these, like he had, like, a jug and all this stuff, and he was so proud because he was helping the little animals at the little marsh area, and I loved that because that's just, like, little seeds you plant in your
Ugh.
kids, but that is just, like, a ripple effect to now those are that's the next generation of outdoor activists. They're the ones that are gonna be voting to protect it. They're gonna be raising the next generation. Your daughter's gonna be the next woman mentor for the next generation,
Yeah.
and it's just such it's a ripple effect that we're creating. I don't think that women realize the impact that they are having. And, um go back to what you said about, you know, changing people's lives, like someone that thought that they couldn't love guns or, outside of hunting, um, you know, having more accessible things like women range days. I love all the women range days that I attend. I actually, if I see one, I want to go out of my way to go because I just love being around other women experiencing those things. And I just, you know, when they say that women are the fastest growing demographic, but we're also the fastest leaving demographic, that's hurting me because I'm like, man, if just like the woman that left, like if we could just take her in, like, why did she leave? And I really think a lot of it is the lack of community that some women experience because all the women that I know that start getting into the outdoors and have a community, like they're still in it. They're still doing it. Um, so I
It's
really just like
essential.
I hope that, just through this yeah, that like this is why we're doing this, trying to reach people. Um, yeah, so let's go kind of back to some of the events that you guys are putting on because I know we talk a lot about hunting because we love to hunt, but you guys put on other events and especially
Yeah.
like the Go Wild. What other things are you guys doing that, you're seeing women just engage in the outdoors? It's not all about hunting and shooting. It's also about what else? What are you seeing like that you're
Homesteading.
like people are really interested in?
People are loving survival stuff right now. With shows like Alone, and I mean, I guess we could say Naked and Afraid. It's that whole survival instinct is something that people really are into right now. Like you mentioned with COVID, we saw a surge in homesteading type of activities. Those are still incredibly popular. Typically, if we have a butchering class of any kind, it quickly fills. And, we've talked about those being really kind of an emotional class, but um, we try to offer any activity, no matter how peripherally related to the outdoors it may be, because like I just mentioned, if we show people what there is to care about, then they're going to protect it and keep it for future generations. So, um, it might not seem pertinent to the outdoors to offer a butterfly pinning class, but I can talk to you about native butterflies. I can talk to you about pollinators. I can talk to you about things that you can plant in your yard to get these butterflies so that you can make your own art after they die. It all comes back to conservation at the
Yeah.
heart. I mean, even things like wildlife identification. We were talking about how scary it can be to walk out to your stand in the dark in the morning. But if you have an opportunity to go to a class that tells you what animals you can find in your area, what they look like, what the likelihood of them coming to you is,
Yeah.
that can break a barrier down for a woman. So we don't stop at the hook and bullet at WildHErness, because we just think it's short-sighted. There are so many women that are begging for outdoor recreation opportunities in a community setting that don't necessarily contribute to Pittman-Robertson taxes,
Mhm.
and they're valuable and worthwhile. We need to get kayakers out because they're gonna vote to protect waterways, which means that it
Yeah.
helps everybody around, you know? So,
Yeah.
long story short, the conservation's at the heart of what we do.
Yeah, and I think, we segment it, like you said, like, you had the hook and bullet side, we kind of have, like, the REI hiking side. Um, Fun fact, you guys have to make it up to OMS, which is, like, the Outdoor Media Summit. I don't know if you guys have been yet, but I went to that, and the hook and bullet side is, like, really the smaller of the event. I was a speaker, um and it would really just, like, open my eyes. I had so many fun things, but WildHErness would be great, just, like, for your leadership team to go to see just some of the stuff that they had, but we talked about, like, you had, editors from fly fishing magazines all the way to people that built, like, the little camper shells that go on your car, and I love talking to other people on the other sides of the outdoors because I'm like, "I care about the same things that you guys care about."
Yes.
And I love having those conversations. We actually floated the river as a family this year, camped in tents with all of our 5 kids, and, they still talk about, like, going there and doing that stuff, flying off, like, the rope swings, and, I was
Oh.
saying, like, everything that you guys do for conservation is protecting the waterways that we have here too, like, Oklahoma, it's a big thing to go float the river,
Mhm.
and, they were like, really? Picking up trash, like all those things that 2 of my kids are big into fishing and like they fish all the time. They could tell me about stuff that I don't even know about fishing. I don't know about it. And I love that. I love seeing just I don't know, just the conversations, the things that spark. Do you have kids that love to hunt, that love to fish, just outdoors, or they kind of just like I don't know. Each one of my kids, I can be like, you know what? They kinda like doing this. Are you kinda
Yeah.
starting to see that with your kids?
So right now they're big on hiking and finding things in the
Yeah.
woods. We go on mushroom hunts a lot. That's a big one right now. Um, my daughter has been out a few times with my husband hunting, and she enjoys it. But since we moved here, we have moved a couple of times, so it's been kind of hard to find the time to hunt here to develop that. My son's a little young, he's still just 2, so, we haven't taken him out much other than hiking yet, so, but, women are just kind of as a whole, we are a very, persuasive group. So, getting a group of women out together, even if it's something that's not necessarily like hook and bullet related, having an opportunity to discuss it with other women and maybe be persuaded just a little to try something, I think is the other benefit of having community is that we can see women try things that they might not otherwise have tried, just at the insistence of their newfound friends. And I think that is a real testament to why the community is so important.
Yeah, and it also a lot of it has to do with access too. There's people that have invited me to, you know, like, my first turkey hunt. I didn't have any property that had turkeys on it. Where I was hunting didn't have a turkey season allotted on the post, so I just didn't get to turkey hunt. But I got invited by another woman that had a safe space to go that was, and that was my first turkey hunt, my first experience. It was amazing, and I think that's a lot of the thing for women too is, like you said, not every woman wants to walk out on public land, dark, and all the things, but having another woman like, "Okay, well, we went on this group hunt together, but you should come back and I have this hunt to offer, or we can do this together." I think women are finding that also beneficial because, not like I said, not every woman wants a lot of women are scared to do public land, like that's kinda like a
Mhm.
separate whole other thing.
Mhm. Whole
Um,
other thing.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's just nice to have a space where, you're not necessarily intimidated by somebody who's been doing it for 25 years or 30 years or whatever
Yeah.
it may be. So finding somebody that, can can encourage you without that intimidation factor is really important as well.
Yeah, except like the outdoors itself is intimidating,
Mhm.
just all the things that goes into just doing anything in the outdoors, let alone adding, other people in that. And I feel like that is a lot of thing we as women sometimes want to feel like we already have arrived. We're already the expert. We're already, comfortable. And so it is hard, I mean, for anybody to kind of okay, like, I'm new. I am the beginner. I am still learning or I'm entry level. It's a vulnerable space to be, really. And if you're not confident with shooting, tracking, or whatever it is, that can be like a scary thing. And I feel like that's where these groups come together because I feel like women find that relatable and be like, okay, well, we can do it together,
Yes. Yes,
we can like, hey, like, oh yeah, this is what we do. Um, I went on, like, a duck so I love duck hunting, but I'm not the best duck caller because I usually hunt with people that are just better duck callers. You just
Yep.
let them do
Ditto.
it. Uh, but I have been with some really great people that's like, "Hey, you should try, like, the more the merrier. You're never gonna be able to do it if you don't do it?" And that has been a really big encouragement for me because if I hunted with some of the guys that are, like, amazing, I'd be like, "I'm not even bringing this out of my pocket because they're amazing?" But if I hunted with girls that are like, "Yeah, girl, just do it?" And so I love that, I've been in that space before, and can just say that it's women just need to find the community. They just,
Absolutely.
there's nothing you can't duplicate it? Um, and, I'm fine with being the only girl every once in a while, but it's better whenever it's only girls.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
yeah,
It
yeah.
definitely is. And, going back to your
Well,
point about women needing, a lot of the information all up front. I think that that is another reason why women learning in a women-taught or women-centric environment is so impactful, is we're able to break it down to the way that we wish we would have learned when we were learning it, you know? And put all the education part forward and then the doing part in kind of the back end. And it seems so far it works pretty well for us.
yeah, I think, the people that are teaching, a lot of us are kinda like that on that trailblazer side. Where, we were Mod Podging the camo to, like, make it fit, Now some of these girls that are coming in can buy it that's already fits, or we were using our
And it
dad or
matches?
grandpa's gun that was ill-fitted,
How
it's
lucky.
heavy, it doesn't fit right, and, like, now there's so many options, customizable guns, just there's so many things that women can do now that I feel like it's more comfortable, accessible, so there like, some of that learning curve, they don't have to go through because we're like, "Listen," and it's kinda like a new mom, You're like, "Oh, you don't need that.
Yep.
You don't need that baby bath. Put him in the sink," or whatever. Like, those are kinda
Exactly.
things that
Yeah.
you can, um as, like, women that have kind of, like, been in it longer, I feel like those are like, "You don't need that. You can do this," or, and
Certainly.
social media like, a lot of people are against it, I feel like, and in a way, I feel like it does push some negative things, but I always feel like the women that are out there sharing, like, authentic voices, like you went back to say, that story, I could also say, like, countless times where women have said, like, "Hey, you share this, and now I'm doing this," or, "Hey, guess what? I went on my first pheasant hunt," and I never even shared about pheasant hunting, but because I talk about hunting, it was an accessible thing for them to do, and now they're doing it, um and I love that, like, I did like, I'm doing the feather art, and I have women that shared with me that they took and they were actually took the pheasant, it's the same lady, and she was doing pheasant feather art, and I love seeing that because, you know, never before could we connect with women like that, and now we have
Yes.
this flourishing online community, and WildHERness has a really good page, like, you guys share a lot on there, um, and I
Thank
I
you.
love that, yeah, you guys have that that's, like, available for women to it's like a hub,
Yeah.
and like you said, there's so many organizations, but women are finding other women, and I hope that more women find women because we
Absolutely.
just yeah, there's And also, like, going back to, like, just, like, the nitty-gritty of, funding, conservation, women hold, like, 86% of the buying power for a household. Like, that's, like, the statistic. If you get the woman buying into the outdoors, like, that's another part of keeping conservation funding alive, um, because she's
Well, then
more
they
apt to
usually
put
bring
money
their whole
towards it.
f y yeah, and they're ready to bring their
Yeah.
whole family to do it too because they're like, "Hey, I don't wanna do this alone, you guys are coming with me. Come play in the
Yes.
woods." Yeah, yeah,
100%. Yeah, so, like, it multiplies the licenses, it multiplies the people that are out there for management that are harvesting it. There's just, like, there's so many things that go into that, and I
yeah,
and I and I think that's why we have Ascend. Like, we're trying to share authentic voices for women all over the United States that have totally different backgrounds, but we all have one thing in common, and that's the outdoors, and,
absolutely, and
um
I encourage anybody out there just to try the different groups. Uncharted Outdoors Women for those in the West, there's Her Wilderness, they're doing things all across the United States. There are so many groups out there, you are welcome to reach out to Wilderness at any time, and that's WildHERness with an H. .org, and we're on Facebook and Instagram. I would be happy to repeat any of the resources that I have mentioned in this particular podcast, and let you know about things that are in your area. That's really kind of the whole point is community over competition. I don't care if you come and explore the outdoors with Wilderness or Artemis Sportswomen, as long as you do it. That's what matters.
Yes, and that was actually gonna roll on my next point was where we can find you, and we'll make sure that we tag all that below and where people can get
Super.
connected because, I definitely think this is something that is just special to me because I've lived it. I've lived the women community. I have reaped the benefits, and I've sewed back into it, and it's ingrained, and I think that's why all of us over here on the Ascend side are doing this because we see the need, we love it, and we just want to share the story. So, thank you, Jess, for joining us today and sharing your perspective.
Thank you for having me and, just, keep on keeping on that community.
I hope that all of you guys find community here at Do You Ascend. If you guys will stay tuned to the next episode, we have more adventures coming your way.
Thank you for listening to the Ascend podcast. New every week, the conservation driven podcast 1 week and our adventure video series the next. Watch the Ascend adventure episodes on the Ducks Unlimited YouTube channel. And be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Opinions expressed by guests do not necessarily reflect those of Ducks Unlimited. Until next time, follow your outdoor story wherever it leads you. Ascend.